Be
Okay.
sweet, innit?
Okay. In it. Oh, you're still using that UK
Of
slang.
course, bro. Of course,
Oh
bro.
my days.
You know about tragedy. You know about this.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode with Jordan. We've got Jordan on today. He's here to
There
tell us
goes.
his story. So Jordan, who are you? What do you do? What are you about?
Well, I'm 20. I'm 20 years old. My name's Jordan Wright. I'm originally from Adelaide. My family's originates from England. I lived in Adelaide, South Australia, for 18 years. Did all of primary school, all of high school there. Had a pretty straightforward lifestyle, as in terms of what most teenagers have. You know, you play your sport, see your friends, go to parties, all that kind of rubbish. And then I moved over to Wollongong in early 2021 to come over to play football. Plans have changed since I've been here. It's obviously going into my third year being here now, and I'm not playing football anymore. At the moment I'm studying marketing, and I'm actually working full time in assisting event and promotions for a chain of nightclubs over in Wollongong. So yeah.
Yeah, things really didn't go to plan. We'll talk about your injuries and what happened there, right? It was a rough ride. You've obviously come to play football and progress your career, and then one thing after another led to you now transitioning. So
Yeah.
we'll let you explain how things kind of happened.
Yeah, so pretty much I came over here in February 2021, and I trained at a few different clubs, just trying to find my feet, find my level, and where everything was going to be. Obviously, it was a big shift coming over from Adelaide, and I was actually signed myself up at South Coast Flame in the under 20s, and yeah, we had a pretty good squad, pretty good group of boys there. Training 3 times a week, putting our heads down. Results probably didn't go our way for the first for all year really. It was a COVID year. It was a COVID year, and
Yeah.
the season got cut short. I think it was about 8 weeks short. I
Mm.
was only involved up until about round six. That was when the first of my injuries came. I played 5 games in the under 20s, and then went to start for the first grade, playing out of position, and I lasted 4.5 minutes, and then I snapped my right ACL. Did all my rehab. It was 10.5 months between games for me when I started playing again in 22. And yeah, the second one, I came back pretty well, much to everyone's surprise, I think, around the club and around the South Coast Flame community. And yeah, we were playing really, really well. We were knocking on the door a top spot. And yeah, after 13 weeks this time, I unfortunately snapped my other ACL. So that was that for me. And the boys, they fought hard and were within a hair's breadth of a grand final in the end. So, but yeah,
Bit rough. Very
yeah,
rough.
yeah, it was. But these kind of things happen in football. It's I think it's something like you're 7 times more likely after your first ACL to do your second one.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that it happened to be the other leg. Um, and yeah, it's just the rehab process is long. It's repetitive. It's very boring, and it's very easy to get off track and get distracted and do all sorts of things, and probably do things at the wrong time, like go out and drinking when you're meant to be. You should be at home and resting. Those first 2 months are the most important.
Mm.
Um, Especially post surgery. Yeah, it is difficult to try and, because you obviously don't have your football anymore, but you still want to be social, you still want to hang out with your friends and stuff. It's hard
Mm.
to kind of have that balance with, yes, I want to be active, I want to be, active socially and going to see all my friends and stuff, but I don't want to get into a suction of, going out every weekend and drinking, because it's gonna hinder my progress in rehab.
So what's next for you? Are you looking to get back into football, looking to progress in your career, or still deciding, or?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm just helping out with the under 20s. I'm just the team manager at the moment and giving my 2 cents here and there when it's required. In terms of playing, I probably don't think I'll go back. But you never know. It's a long way. Probably September, I think I'll be cleared to play again. So it'll be a long time before then. But we'll see. Maybe next year I might come back and play a few divisions down. And might play some local league rather than NPL,
Mm.
and see where we go from there. But no, man, I'm just kind of using this time to really focus on my work now and my study. as well as some other things. But yeah, just really just trying to make the most out of my time and still stay involved as I can. And as I said, we'll see where it goes in the future.
Yeah, that's fair. You kind of got to take it like one day at a time. Obviously, you got a lot of options. You're still young. You're still kind of figuring out, okay, what's next for me. I think it's really hard to go through like those challenging injuries where something happens to you and it's like really difficult to get through and you're not really sure what's next. And it can be quite a lonely place. Obviously, as well, your family's still in Adelaide, right? That's correct.
Yeah, I'm over here on my own.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you've had to carry the kind of weight of everything by yourself and try and, it's, I don't know about you, but it can be annoying sometimes. Like when you got an injury, having to put on that brave face and everyone's like, oh, how are you? And you're like, bro, this is the fifth time I've been asked today. Like, I'm just trying to get through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly, man. I think the best example of that for me was probably finals last year when, I was probably, in that core group of boys that were, that were really driving the team, playing really well. And, when it came to finals and we were winning games, I was so happy for all the boys and stuff. I was very excited that we were progressing, but at the same time, I was like, I'm not out there. I'm not playing. That kind of selfish mindset that does seek in, which I tried to avoid, but it's human nature where you put a lot of effort into something and you give your all for 4.5 months or whatever it was, 3.5 months, and you're not there to reap the rewards at the end. It's very disappointing, but that is sport. It's happened to a lot of people. It's a shame that it had to happen this way, but that was really hard. And to be fair, I had a very good support network around me. The boys we had last year in the squad were, they were always checking up on me, always making sure that I was involved in everything and made to feel as much part of it as possible. So yeah, it helped, but it was certainly a really hard time. While we were doing so well, and it was a very successful time for the club and for the team, it was hard to sit and watch and be on the sidelines. And yeah.
So what did your rehab look like? Was that every day or was it like?
Yeah, so straight out of surgery, you're doing home exercises every day to try and get your mobility back, get yourself walking again, getting your legs straight, getting your bend back, all sorts of stuff like that. As you progress more and you get more into, your weight, your more weight training to try and build your muscle back because you lose quite a lot of quad mass when you have your knee reconstruction because you're off your leg for about 2 to 3 weeks. So you do lose quite a lot of quad mass. Building that back up, that's probably more you're looking at anywhere between 3 to 7 times a week that you could be. It's obviously a personal choice. It's how much you got to really listen to your body. There's no real kind of direct way to do it. Like my first rehab, the first kind of what am I now, September, my first 5 months last year of my first ACL looked much different to my first 5 months of this left one. Obviously, I went on holiday. I had a few complications a few months into my second one because I had a lot of pain through my patella tendon and stuff. So things have had to shift. And even now, my rehab is still changing because, I'm struggling to, squat and get back up. So I've had to focus less on load and more on like bearing to try and get that muscle strength back. So there's no real like direct way to do it. There's no like written rule on how you do it. It's kind of everyone's different. Everyone's injury is different. Everyone's body is different. And I think what I've kind of just been instructed to do is just listen to your body. Really just listen to your body and do as much as you can. Don't overdo it because as I said, you've got a 9-10 month period to be doing your rehab. There's no point in rushing it. And if you do rush it, or like you tear your hamstring again or something like that, then that can mean another 2 or 3 months on top of your rehab because you got to get your hamstring good again and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. I kind of
No, it was good. It was good. I think when I dislocated my knee as well, that was when I really learned that, when something goes wrong in one area of your body, it can then really begin to affect the other areas. And for me, it's why I learned it's really important not to just push yourself and overdo it. And as you were talking about, listen to your body, because the thing is, like, you have to get your whole body kind of calibrated again. It's not just one part of your knee or one part. It's like you're trying to use your mind and use your body and get back to a kind of high performing functioning state. And it's really like a time where you have to kind of lock in mentally more than anything and commit to doing repetitive, boring tasks. I think that nowadays we find hard to do, especially with like the rise of social media and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It makes like rehab and that kind of thing more
yeah, no,
difficult.
100%. I certainly think one of the things I learned from it was a bit of self-discipline that I
Mm,
maybe hadn't had before. Obviously, I was living out of home at 18 years old.
mm,
I was still getting supported by my family and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I had to have that discipline and self-drive. Otherwise, it was to the point where if I didn't cook, I didn't eat.
mm,
If I didn't do my groceries, I don't have food.
mm.
Things like that. No one's going to remind me that I've got a doctor's appointment next week, or no one's going to remind me that I've got to go to the physio next week. I've got to do all that stuff myself, and that's just life. But it's
Mm,
obviously when you live at home and when you're in high school, you've always got your parents there to
yeah.
kind of. Well, I certainly did anyway. Always had my parents there, and I used to think that I was very. What's the word? I can't think of it now.
Independent?
Yeah, independent. That's it. I used to think I was very independent when I was living at home, and
Mm,
I probably soon realized when I moved out of home that I probably wasn't as independent as I thought I was. But yeah, that's certainly one thing I learned from it was just that self drive and discipline to actually stick to it. Because especially my first one, I was desperate to come back. I
mm,
really, really wanted to come back and play again. This
mm,
second one, it's been a bit more difficult because I'm obviously not as keen to go back to playing. So it's trying to find, I've used like golf as an example. I've been working with my physio to get me back to playing golf.
mm.
And we've got me back doing that now. So now it's going to be getting me back to doing running and running long
Okay.
distances. Then once I can get back to playing long distances, then it'll be something else and something else. And that's how I've been managing it to try and stay disciplined and stay to doing it. Because otherwise, if it was just, yeah, we want to get you back to playing football, well, I don't want to play football again. But I might not want to play football again, but I know I'm going to run again and I know I'm going to play golf again. So let's focus on those ones and get that right. And I found that's really helped.
Yeah, I love what you said there. You talked about breaking things down into smaller kind of bite-sized goals and things that are
Mm.
more achievable. And I think as well on the process, right, you achieve one of those things and it gives you more
Mm.
motivation to now go get the next one. Whereas when the goal is so far away and it's like you know what that's like as well, and you have to get all the way back there, it can seem
Yeah.
quite daunting and quite difficult. And I think the way that you're approaching that is good to keep yourself kind of balanced and in check and also just focused and committed on that recovery process.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, man. And it's obviously a very, very long period of time to be doing a rehabilitation process, and it is really, really hard. And
Mm,
people look at it and go like, "Oh, 9, 10 months, yeah, that mustn't be easy." But when you're actually doing it, it's 150 times harder because it's a very, very lonely process, man. Like, you hear professional athletes on podcasts and on the news and in interviews talk about it all the time. Rehab is one of the loneliest places to be, especially ACL rehab, because you're there for a whole year. And you can be around the boys, but at the end of the day, they're on the field training, you're on the sidelines doing little band work, and you're just starting to run again. It's like today, after this, I'm going down to the ground, and I've got 3 minutes of running. That's all I can do. It's 3 minutes,
oh
and
man.
it's a minute on, minute off, minute on, minute off, minute on, minute off. It's like it feels so stupid, but like when I did that for the first time, I was like, it felt really, really good just to have runners on again and just to be running again. Feeling active and feeling mobile, because I think that's one of the things that probably affected me the most was just feeling so useless when I couldn't play
Mm,
and couldn't run, and especially in the early stages when you're on crutches, can't really walk. People have to help you up. You've got to wear this big bloody glad wrap around your stitches when you're having a shower. You've got to sit down in the shower.
mm,
You feel quite useless,
mm.
and
I
I don't
get
know that.
that.
Yeah, like you do feel quite useless. So when those little things, they might not seem big to other people, like, oh, you ran for 3 minutes. Like,
Mm,
okay, like, okay, why didn't you sprint? Why didn't you run longer? It's like, well, my body actually can't do
yeah.
that at the
And it
moment, and it's not
sounds
ready to
dumb.
do that. It sounds dumb, but to someone that has gone through that, I can remember the first time I started running after my first ACL. I felt brilliant, man. I had the biggest smile on my face all night. Like I was so happy just to be running again, because I felt like once you start running again, you really feel like you're getting into that later stage of rehab and you're close. Whereas
Mm,
before you start running and you're just doing, kind of boring little like RDLs and just body weight squats and all sorts of stuff like that. Like you feel a bit like, "Oh, fuck, this is going to take me forever, man. This is going to take so long." And then when you start running, that back end just goes really quick.
Mm. It's hard though as well when you haven't been able to run for so long, and then you're told to like run for like 1 minute or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it's like that little excitement you get to run again makes you want to push yourself. But then you
Oh,
have to
mate.
no, no, no. If I do this, like I
Yeah.
could. Oh
Oh, mate.
God.
I just wanted to keep running, man.
Yeah.
I was ready to chuck the boots back on and get into training after that,
Forrest
man. I
Gump.
thought it was I thought it was a warm up, bro. I thought it was a warm up, man. Nah, it is hard, and obviously you forget how to run as well, and even that to people sounds stupid. But when you don't run for such a long time,
The mechanics.
the mechanics of it, like I was limping as I was running,
Yeah.
and it felt normal, but it's not. Like it
Yeah.
felt normal, but it's not. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, that's why, especially in your early stages, you have to film yourself running, because a lot of people don't notice how bad they look when they run after, and it's so normal. It is
Mm.
normal. Well, obviously, I've had complications with my leg since the surgery and whatever, and I probably should have started running 4 or 5 weeks ago, but other things have implicated that, and we've only started last week. So, like, I'm running with this big limp, and everyone's looking at me like, "What is this guy doing?" Like, he looks like an idiot, man. Like, what is he doing? And I'm like, man, I'm just trying my hardest, but no,
Yeah, legit. It's a process, man.
it is. It's a huge process, and I probably didn't have that so much the first time, but certainly the second time, man, I've been really like getting those mechanics right, and it does involve, marching on the spot, like when you're at home, like, and looking like a complete idiot, like. But that's just what you have to do, man. And it sucks, but that's what people. I don't think a lot of people understand, like how much actually goes into ACL rehab. It's not just getting your quads big again. It's like relearning how to mechanic your legs again. Well, that's how
Mm.
I felt about it anyway. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those things kind of really help you as well when it comes to progressing your life, right? And one thing about you is you've really made the most of your time outside of that. So you've got more focus with work, you've got more focus with those things to make sure that you're still supporting and balancing your life. And I think it just goes to show that, doing those boring, repetitive tasks that are hard for your injury also helps you do those boring, repetitive tasks in your job that you need to start off with to then progress to something more. And that's
yeah,
definitely something I learned as well is that, I think as young people, we always want something flashy, fun, nice. You know what I mean? But then it's like through these difficult and critical moments, we begin to learn, okay, like it's not always going to be fun. But if I can just do this and kind of master what I'm doing, I'm going to be so much better for it.
yeah, no, 100%. I certainly like agree with that, and probably it's a little bit kind of links with what you were saying. Is when I did my first one, I sat down with it was Oscar. I sat down with Oscar Foreman.
Oh,
I
yeah.
sat down with him, and he was obviously, for those of you that don't know who he is he used to play for the Illawarra Hawks. He played for some other teams as well, I believe, in the NBL. And he just sat down with me and pretty much said to me, right, okay, this is going to be harsh, but you can't play football for 9 to 10 months. You can't play, football isn't an option in there. So what are you going to do with those 9 or 10 months? You don't want to get to the end of those 9 or 10 months and have nothing to show for it, So I picked up, when I was year 8, I got my first DJ controller, and I tried to learn it, and I put it away for probably 3 or 4 years. And I got back into it when I came back to Wollongong. And then as soon as I got injured, I just put my head down, and said, I'm really going to hammer this out and get better at this and really try hard at this. And in the end, that has led to me getting a full-time job, not as a DJ, but in that industry. So that 9-month period where I just, practiced DJing every day and eventually got myself a club gig, later into 21, I think, or the start of 22, I can't really remember. And then having now a full-time job in that industry makes me look back and think, like, if I had wasted my time in that 9 months when I wasn't doing it, if I did, and that did help me do the small repetitive things in my rehab as well. Then when I was practicing my DJing, if I didn't do any of that, I might not be in Wollongong right now. I might be at home because I wouldn't have a job. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. So like, kind of links to what you were saying. It probably
No,
doesn't.
100%.
Probably completely off topic, but
No,
yeah,
it's right. Yeah.
I think that that was probably the best advice that I got throughout throughout the whole kind of rehab process, or right at the start. It was just someone sitting down with me and saying, you aren't playing football for 10 months. Like, you can cry about it, you can get upset about it, or you can just put your head down and use this 9 months, whether that's to get yourself bigger, get in the gym, make yourself bigger. I don't know. Really, really attack your rehab and make sure, like, come back like a beast or whatever. You know what I mean? Or you can put it into something else, whether that be, golf, surfing, swimming, running. Once you're fit to do DJing, for what I did, whether it's making music, anything, drawing, could be anything, picking up a new hobby, anything like that, So it was certainly the best advice that I got throughout that process, and it's eventually led to me now working full-time in that industry and loving it.
Yeah, this is a part of your story that I really love, is the fact that, as guys, we often, experience different things that aren't enjoyable to go through, right? Whether it's a big injury, a breakup, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And just as Oscar said, and you've talked about, people can either just, sit and be upset about it. But as guys, if we want to be successful men, if we want to produce in this world and improve our circumstances, we have to realize that even though bad things have happened, instead of letting them define us and hold us back, we can actually say, okay, well, this didn't go to plan, but it's all right. I can still be productive and still, as you would have done, feel all those emotions, right? Like, go to the game and you're like, oh, it sucks. But like, when you go back home, don't just sit there and be like, oh, it sucks. Just keep going, keep pushing, keep teaching yourself new things, because then you can rapidly improve your life. You can drastically improve your life, right? And you can open up doors that you never saw possible. And those things that you once saw as a curse, now actually, in a weird, twisted way, it's kind of a blessing that, okay, these injuries happened and it wasn't great, but it's led to something else.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, it's happened, isn't it? Like, it's happened. You can't do anything to make it unhappen. It's the same with, if you say something that pisses your friends off, you apologize, you move on, you show with your actions that you're sorry. It can be with any, that it applies to everything in life, man. Like, something happens, nothing's going to go back in time to change it. It's happened. It's about how you make the best out of that situation. How can you learn? How can you make yourself a better person, or whatever it may be, whether it's a learning situation or if something bad's happened to you. Like, right, how can I realize this, and what are the red flags that I can see to get myself out of these situations to ensure something like this doesn't happen again in the future. And it's just everything's about learning, man. Things happen, and some people just rather be like, I'm almost just happy to be a victim, and that may sound harsh, but I mean by, like, they just want to sit back and it's poor me, why has this happened to me, this, that, the other. Or you can just go, you know what, it's happened. Yeah, it sucks and it's shit, but how can I make this situation better as soon as possible so I can be happy again? And that was what I had to do with both my knees, man, because it really, like, it shaped my life, especially being away from home. And, I didn't just have my parents to wait on me hand and foot. I had some really good people around me, like, both times after surgeries, that helped me out quite a bit with getting to physio when I couldn't drive, helping me with my groceries, all sorts of stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, my parents were a huge help in that as well. They obviously both came over. Mum came over both times. Mum and dad came over the second time. And yeah, like, I had brilliant people around me that helped me through it. But, I had to be, mum and dad were only there for so long. They were there for 2 weeks, well, a week and a half out of a 10-month span. It's not that long when you think about it. It was the time I needed them most, definitely. But there were certainly times in there that were harder than those first 2 weeks, mentally, like 100% worse, because, the first 2 weeks are like, it's happened, whatever. I can't walk. There's nothing much I can do about it. Just try to do the right things, ice it up, and get walking as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But it kind of happens quickly, and you feel progress every day. Your swelling goes down. You can bend your leg a little bit more. You're not in as much pain as yesterday. So it always, like, is that noticeable progression.
Yeah.
Whereas later into the process, there's not that notable progression all the time. It kind of happens in chunks. It's like you work for 3 months, then you can run. You work for 3 months, then you can train again. You work for 3 months, then you can play again. But in those months, nothing's happening. You're staying pretty flat lines. It's not really moving up. You might be progressing like little things, like in the gym. You might be, you usually start you're doing your body weight squats, then you're just squatting the bar, then you go on to 30 kilos, then 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, however high you go. Those things don't happen like every day as it would if you were just going to the gym. Because at the end of the day, yes, your muscles may be stronger, but are your joints and everything else in your leg ready to uphold that way? And that's those parts were really, really hard, man. And, I had really good people around me. As I said, I couldn't be more grateful for them. It's a lonely thing to go through, man. It is very lonely process.
You spoke about Oscar. Did the other Tottenham guys help you, like Rob Mateus as well?
Yeah, 100%. No, they were always very good. Always checking in on me and stuff, make sure I was, on track. I was a bit of a, I was, straight into uni, living out of home for the first time. I was getting on the drink a bit and whatever, and they were just making sure that I wasn't getting too far into that lifestyle. So they were a huge help, and the boys were a pretty good help as well. They were just, how you doing? How's your rehab going? It's little things like that, but after your first couple of weeks, no one really asks. People kind of forget when it's not right, in front of them.
When it's not them doing it 24/7.
Yeah. So they kind of forget. So, but yeah.
And it's more you like going back to them to update them rather than them asking. Yeah.
But you see him in the gym when I was up there doing my rehab, and then say hello and how's your rehab going? But obviously that was a COVID year as well.
Yeah.
And that was when New South Wales went into the 3-month lockdown. I was lucky enough that I was stuck in Adelaide for that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I went home with my mate Jesse. We went home 2 weeks before the lockdown to Adelaide. We just came to meet my family and stuff. He was one of my very good mates at the time. He still is. We went home. We went out. We had a few drinks, whatever. Go to a few clubs. Have a good time. Anyway, it pretty much got announced in New South Wales were going into lockdown while we were there. And his home is country New South Wales in Griffith. So he had to get himself home. He had to fly to Canberra, then drive from Canberra to Griffith, just because it's a little bit closer than Sydney, I believe, by a few hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, I stayed in Adelaide because we weren't locked down. We could still go out. We could still go get a beer with our mates. You had to wear masks and sit down and social distance and whatever. But yeah, so I was probably pretty lucky because I don't know how I would have gone if I was in lockdown through that rehab process. Like I was still able to go to gyms. I was still able to see physios in person. I was still able to go out and walk and not be on a time limit. You know what I mean? I could stick to my goals and stick to my programs and have everything go smoothly.
Yeah, I mentioned Robert Mateus because I had a really bad concussion as well back then. And God, those guys, like the more I look back on it, the more I realized they really helped me. Not just that, but obviously because we had like psychologists and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Brav. Like those things help so much. Oh my days. Because like
it's like you don't really notice it when it's happening, but once it's like happened, then you're like, wow, like if I didn't have that, where would I be and where would my head have been at? Like it's a crazy thing to look back on, and you probably don't appreciate it. Like you obviously always do, but you probably don't appreciate the extent that sometimes how much people go out of their way to help you. It's like, wow, you look back, it's like, fuck, like you were like a really good person. You are a good person for doing that because you didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? Like especially you didn't have to go to that extent.
Especially as you talked about when you deal with it 24/7, because you're dealing with it every waking second of the day and people are touching in with you like every now and again. It kind of seems sometimes like people don't really care. Yeah. But then when you look back, that's exactly when you're like, you know what, actually, yeah, damn, like this person really did have my back and that kind of thing. It's just so mentally difficult though. Like that's the hardest part, because as athletes, we put so much of our life into our sport.
Yeah.
So when you can no longer participate in that, it's like a whole chunk of your personality is just gone.
It's like, what do I do? You
Yeah.
know,
Like, who
it's
am
like,
I? Kind of.
yeah, where do I
Especially
go
at the
from
younger
there?
ages when we're still like, you're experiencing independence for the first time, and you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm a footballer, all right, living in Wollongong. This is who I am. This is who I'm going to be for the next few years, and kind of that
Yeah,
whole timeline and all your expectations and stuff just get crushed with one injury, and it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you've got to
Then
readjust.
you go through your whole rehab process and it happens again. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. You're like, okay, I'm
so
done. Yeah, good. That was bad, and
yeah,
then it's like, boom, again. Yeah,
it happens again, and it's
it's a
like it's
killer,
not
bro.
even. And the worst thing is like you can't even blame yourself because it's just that it happens. It's nothing I did wrong. It's not that I went in for a stupid challenge and it just happened, man.
I don't
Like
think people
it's
understand how traumatic these things can be. That's the thing. Like,
oh
you know, when somebody gets injured on, like, you watch them on TV and stuff, and they get injured,
hmm.
especially before you have an injury, you're kind of like, ah, like, they got injured. It's not a big deal. Like, they'll just, bruv, when you actually experience that thing, that's when it's like up here. You know what I
Oh
mean? And you're like,
yeah.
crap, this is what
Mate,
people are.
like my first one, I didn't hear of. Like for those people that don't know, like when you do snap your ACL, there's a huge crunch you hear. Like you've snapped it. The first time I didn't hear it. The second time I heard it, bro, I couldn't sleep for like a week, man. Not only because I was in so much pain, but I could just hear over and over in my head just. Then you go and you have your MRI. You've done it because
Mm,
once you've done it before, the pain is unmistakable. You
mm.
know it's happened again. I've got to measure the second time I did it. It was the first game my family had come and watched me play in Wollongong. They were at that game. It was crazy, man. Like just the coincidence of it all, and it was probably better that they were there. Like in all honesty, like it
Yeah,
really
that's a
helped.
good point, actually. Yeah.
Then when you get the MRI done, you do this, you do that, and then you get the results back, and it's like, yeah, you've got, your meniscus is torn, your MCL is buggered, like if there's a fracture, not a fracture, there's a depression fracture, your MCL's got a grade whatever sprain, and you've got to wear this big bloody bulky brace on your
Yeah, leg
leg,
brace.
and it's
Yeah.
like, and like you can walk, but because of your fracture, you have to be on crutches. It's like I can walk normally, and people are just like, mate, we saw you walking like a week ago. Like, why are you on crutches? It's like, yeah, because I got my results back and I have a fracture in my leg. Like, I know it
I'm not
looks
supposed to put
retarded.
weight on it, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I know it looks stupid, but like,
crutches are the
some,
worst.
oh no, they suck, man.
Oh God.
They're fucking terrible, bro. Like, I hated them. I hated them, man. Like, I was so happy to throw those things out. I mean, I say that, but they're in the corner of my room because I know if I ever play again, that I'm gonna snap my knee and I'm gonna need them. But yeah, so they're terrible. They're terrible.
The mental side of football for you and returning to the sport, how was that? Was that difficult to step back onto the pitch again?
Yeah, I think the first couple of games were. Um, I used to get my knee strapped. Like it can most unnecessary thing ever. Like if you're gonna snap your knee, a bit of medical tape is not gonna fucking stop it. But I used to get my knee strapped every week
Yeah.
because it would make me. You'd think it would make you remember that it's there, but it actually made me forget because I had that second bit of reassurance that yes, it is there. Something's going to stop me. If it's going to
Mm.
happen again, that's going to stop it. So I wouldn't think about it, and that allowed me to just play. I think I played 2 preseason games. It's like two half games before round one, and I struggled in those two, finding my feet again because I was unfit as anything. Obviously,
Mm.
I was getting worried about changing directions, all sorts of stuff like that. Because obviously I missed a lot of preseason because I wasn't ready to train yet. Um, And yeah, this once the season started though, like once we started playing competitively, I think I was fine.
Mm.
I didn't think about it again. There was one game where I kind of fell like almost identically to the way that I fell the first time,
Mm.
and I was like, oh no. But I felt my foot slip from under me, so obviously didn't plant and twist.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I didn't think about it again until I was on the floor at Hurstville
Oh God.
after I'd done it again.
Nah, that's
So yeah,
tragic. Yeah.
yeah, but
Because
it's like, sorry, go on.
no, you say what you're saying.
No, it's like one of those ones. It's like what we were saying before. Like if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I've always had the mindset, and people that know me know this about me. I've always got the mindset like I don't really worry about things too much in terms of like, oh, I'm worried I'm not going to get a good grade on this. I'm worried I'm not, this person's not going to like what I've done here or whatever. I'm worried my girlfriend might cheat on me, whatever it may be, because there's always been you worrying about a situation will not change the outcome. I've always been a firm believer of that. That you worrying about something will not change the outcome. If something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Your worry will only make it worse for you. It won't make it better. Worrying is a good thing because worrying can, get you out of bad situations. It can help you stop you from making stupid decisions. I still think about things, but I just don't worry about things that I can't control. If I can't control the outcome of a situation, then I just don't worry about it because it is what it is. It'll happen.
Is that something you've learned recently, or is that something you've kind of always believed?
Oh, probably kind of always been like that a little bit, but probably just not like identified it. Obviously as you go through high school, you make stupid choices, you do dumb shit, and you learn from it, and it changes who you are. So I probably definitely came to Wollongong a different person. Well, sorry, every time I've gone back to Adelaide, I've been a much different person than the one that left. I was probably a bit immature. I probably even a little bit selfish, maybe. If I wasn't happy, then I didn't really care. It was all about me. And I was definitely a selfish little shit when I was a kid. When I was like 5 or 6 years old, I always was. And I got better as the years went on, obviously. But it was probably until like I moved out of home and I had to start living with new people that I didn't know, and that I had to shift that mindset. But again, it was probably just something I did subconsciously. I didn't know I was selfish. I didn't know that I was being selfish. I was just doing it, but I wasn't recognizing it. And when I was able to reflect on that, I was like, "Oh shit, you were being selfish there." And I don't know. Looking back on it, you're a product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I definitely probably fell victim to that. I probably didn't surround myself with the best people at times. I certainly surround myself with some great people. There's 6 people now that I spend the most time with back home are my 6 best mates, and they will be till I die, probably. But I definitely in high school, I fell a victim to that at a young age when I was kind of like just starting, like in year 7, 8, 9. I probably didn't surround myself with the best people for me at the time. And that's not to say that they were bad people or whatever, but that's just how I felt. Really looking back on it, that probably wasn't the best decision for me, and that probably got me into these bad habits. Obviously going to a private school, there's some kids that are, that are on scholarships and maybe don't have the wealthiest families. There's some people that's parents make millions of dollars a year or own $1 million businesses. So there's a vast majority of kids that are there. And obviously you can tell which ones are a bit snobbier, which ones aren't. And, I was probably hanging around with kids that were a bit too spoiled. And that wasn't how I was raised. I wasn't raised a spoiled kid, but I was acting like a spoiled kid. And it's only like when you look back on the way you acted as an adult now, you look back on the way you acted and you're like, yeah, I was a little shit, I was selfish there. I was acting like a little brat, like a sport brat, But yeah, like moving out of home is definitely obviously it's changed. I've had to adapt. I lived with 3 people at uni accommodation when I first moved, and then I moved into my apartment that I'm in now with 2 of my mates, and I've been here for a year. We're going into our 2nd year now. And you learn new things off these people all the time. So, they teach you. The people that I was with previously probably taught me bad habits. The 2 boys that I'm with now definitely drill good habits into me. Just with daily life.
I think for me, going to the program was really what allowed me to refine some of these initial beliefs I had and to kind of better understand the initial beliefs I had. And so that's why I asked you that question before, like these beliefs that you've always had, or because a lot of the beliefs I have today as well, they're beliefs that I've had for a while, but going to the program, like the refinement of character and the where I was able to progress and look back on things, but no longer have such an attachment. Because once again, it's what you were talking about worrying, right? And sometimes I used to look back on myself and be like, oh, it's so bad that I did that, and get so critical and so harsh on myself, which then actually wasn't helping me in my future. Whereas, like, obviously we grew up in two completely different worlds, but I can see a lot of what you're saying is also through the program how I became as well, in terms of like, I would look back on my past and say, okay, maybe that wasn't so good. But instead of punishing myself for it, just changing it in the future. That's all you can do. Like, you can't just like get so mad at yourself that you're so worked up, and because you're just in a perpetual loop of like negative emotions and just so much negativity in your life, rather than just being ready to just accept and say, you know what, actually, like, my past wasn't great and I didn't make all the best decisions, but now I know how to make better decisions for what I do. And it's that constant grind to be better, which is also what rehabbing from an injury is how can I be a little bit better every day, rather than, fretting or being so worried and allowing yourself to damage yourself.
Yeah. It's like one of my old football coaches used to say, and it was a football thing, but I actually more look at it now in real life, in life outside of football, is mistakes aren't mistakes, they're learning opportunities. And the sooner you change your mindset and start calling them learning opportunities rather than mistakes, it takes a lot of like the malice out of it. It takes a lot of like that real darker side out of a mistake. Whereas if it's a learning opportunity, you've had an opportunity to learn something because you have done something wrong, or you've upset one of your friends, or whatever it may be. And sometimes you make stupid decisions that you do. You'll make them for the rest of your life. And if you use them as learning opportunities and be like, fuck, I really hurt someone that I cared about by what I did, I'll now know never to do anything like that ever again. You know what I mean?
One of those recently. Oh my days. Yeah,
definitely. It happens. It does happen. And, they're just learning opportunities, man. They're not mistakes. Like, I don't really like to refer to them as mistakes. Like, they're learning opportunities, because at the end of the day, like, you know what you're doing. You know when you're making a decision, the potential impacts that it could have. If you don't think about it, then, well, what are you doing? Like, that doesn't help you. If you're not thinking before, if you're not thinking before you're doing, then something's not right. So I think I take a lot more self-responsibility now as well. I still make mistakes. I still have learning opportunities, but I'm now able to immediately identify, right, yeah, that probably wasn't a good idea. That's really annoyed one of my mates. That's, I've really hurt that person there by what I've done. How can I make it better? Rather than, when I was a kid, probably look for an excuse as to why it happened, rather than just, manning up, taking responsibility, or not manning up, but, just.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, just, taking that,
putting your ego aside and,
saying, no, it wasn't me.
Or personing up, I think you've got to call it these days.
You don't want to get in trouble. You'll be cancelled, mate.
I don't want to get cancelled, Jay Wright, man. Don't cancel Jordan. Don't cancel.
Jay Riz. Oh, Jay Riz. I should have introduced you as Jay Riz.
Nah, mate.
All the Spurs guys watching, they would want to hear about Jay Riz. Oh my god. The legend that is Jay Riz.
Oh mate.
You're a legend in the UK and in Australia, mate.
No legend, mate. No legend. No, certainly
just a humble
legend,
guy.
Mate.
Just a humble guy. Jay Riz.
No one. No legend, mate.
For anyone that doesn't know, this guy self-proclaimed himself as Jay Riz. That's why
I did not. I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
We were in the UK.
Yeah.
We're on a football tour.
Yeah.
And our S&C guy came with us.
Yeah.
And I asked him if he had any Riz about him. And he goes, "What's Riz?" And one of our coaches was with us, and he was like asking me to explain to him what Riz was. So I did. And he's like, "Oh, so you'd be Jay Riz then?" And I'm like, "Oh, if that's what you want to call me, then sure." And then these idiots go around like, "Oh, he calls himself Jay Riz. He calls himself this bullshit." I don't call myself nothing. give me these nicknames and throw me under the bus like that.
No, but what you mentioned about like that self accountability and responsibility is really important. You know, it's important to be able to reflect and say, you know what, I didn't do the right thing here. And for me, it's also about the attitude after you make a mistake, right? Or as you said, a learning opportunity. So if you've done something and you know it's wrong, instead of worrying about, okay, this was really wrong or whatever, just make sure that you show that person you really are sorry and give them the time to get past it, right? So don't necessarily be in their face all the time about it or whatever. Just be like, you know what, I'm really sorry. And
Yeah,
what can I do here to show you that I'm sorry? And it might
yeah,
take them like even a month, 2 months or whatever, but just give them that space to actually just be pissed off and get
mm.
past it. Don't try and hurry up their process. You've
No,
done
exactly
something that
right.
affects their timeline. Now let them restore their timeline rather than
Yeah, yeah, no, you're exactly right, man. And those things happen, man. You are going to piss people off in your life, and you know, some people you're going to care that you pissed them off. Some people you're not going to care. You know, but it happens, and you've just got to let them be angry, as you said. Let them be pissed off. Let them calm down. And if they want to work through it, they want to work through it. But you know, sometimes you're going to make mistakes in life that you can't come back from, and they are going to effectively end a relationship, whether that be a friendship, a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, whatever it is. You know, you see it in everyday life. You know, you're going to make new friends, you're going to lose friends. People come and go all the time, so these things are going to happen. But it's just learning from them. Like learning opportunities are fine as long as you learn something.
mm,
And action speaks so much louder than words. I've always been like a pretty big advocate on that. And you know, I've probably had it thrown in my face a few times where I've said something and not delivered, you know, and, you know, I reflect on that and I make myself a better person, you know, because no one's perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. I'm far from perfect. And I learn new things about myself, about the world that I'm in every day. And I just try to make myself the best. I just try to be the best version of myself that I can be,
mm,
you know, and at the end of the day, if you're not happy with yourself, you know, no one's going to be happy with you, you know, realistically. Like you've got to find your own happiness in who you are before you can seek that from other people. And that was probably, you know, something you don't really learn in high school because it's a popularity contest. It always was, it always has been, and always probably will be. When you get
mm,
into the real world, that you know, you see those kind of, you know, boys and girls that that do live off being popular in high school, and what they're doing 2 years after high school, you're like, well, you know, you peaked, your life peaked then. Like, you know,
yeah.
you know, you just nothing's happened for you since, you know. You see some kids that have, you know, gone and lived overseas for 2 years, or in my case, lived interstate for 2 years. They're studying, they've got a full time job. Other kids are, you know, halfway through their apprenticeship. Some people are still working at Kmart. Some people are still working at Target. You know,
Mm,
trying to work out what they're doing with their lives. That's fine. Like you're young for a long time, and you're going to work for a long time. So I certainly don't think there's a need to be like, I certainly wouldn't be working full time if it wasn't something I really wanted to be doing.
mm,
But and I do really love my job, and I do really want to be doing it. But
mm,
yeah, so it's just finding that happiness within yourself. Like if something doesn't make me happy, then why? I'm not going to surround myself around it. But
mm,
I found that I couldn't be happy with anyone else before I was happy with myself.
mm.
And I probably deflected a lot of that onto other people because I was in, maybe insecure is probably not the right word, but I wasn't happy with certain parts of my character.
You
You
want a
know,
peace with
I
yourself.
didn't, yeah, I didn't like certain things about myself. And I probably, through high school and probably the earlier stages of 2021, when I was just, like, I just turned 18,
Mm,
I was probably looking for reasons why that was the case rather than just blaming myself and taking responsibility for my actions and for the way I was acting and for being the way I was. I was looking
mm,
for someone to blame for it and looking for a reason that I was like that because it's easier to do that. It's easier to blame someone else for your actions. And it does take a lot to, you know, go, you know what, that was actually a really fucking stupid thing to do. I didn't think it through. Really sorry. I won't do it again.
mm.
And, you know, that's all you can do. It's all you can do in life, man. Is just be happy with yourself and just try and be the best version of yourself.
What you touched on there is great. That process of, learning to love yourself. And I hear that, or those words getting tossed around a lot. You've got to love yourself, and people don't know what that actually looks like. But loving yourself is all about acceptance of self. It's all about accepting the parts of yourself that you don't like, and instead of always fighting yourself and condoning yourself, etc., it's about trying to consistently put your best foot forward, and then allowing yourself to make those mistakes, etc., and realizing that, okay, I'm not perfect and I'm still learning, but at least I'm happy with the person that I'm becoming. I'm happy with the steps that I'm taking. In your example, for example, that was funny. In your example, for example. But anyway, in your example, you have carved a job for yourself in an industry that you love. So despite you not going to where you wanted to go with football, you've now put yourself in a position that you want to be in. And that allows you to really be grateful for your life and the things that you're doing in your life, right? Because you've made these decisions for yourself and you've overcome these difficult things and you've accepted them rather than fighting them. And now you're doing things that you enjoy doing and you're putting yourself in environments that you like to be in. But if you're not willing to work on how do I accept my world and just get more at peace with myself and really enjoy each day and understand what peace really looks like, understand what acceptance of self really looks like, that's when you can find yourself in those states that we were in before, where you're struggling, there's a lot of resentment, you're blaming everyone for everything else and nothing's ever you, and you're just, you know what I mean? You're just at war with people. And it's just really essential to get to that place where you can just, just breathe and just relax and just say, you know what, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. And as I said before, like you're the product of the 5 people you're around the most, And if you're around people that aren't the way you want to be as a person, then you're never going to be that. You're going to constantly be pushed into things you don't want to do. You're going to get led down the wrong roads, all sorts of stuff like that. And, the 5 people I spend my most time around are 5 people that I see myself in, I see my parents in, so they're people I want to be around because I've had to make a kind of family for myself over here, not having mum and dad and my sister around all the time. So I found having those 5 people around quite consistently has made my life better, obviously, but has also made me more the person that I want to be, which I'm still not there yet, and I probably never will get there.
You'll get there.
Eventually you will. But if you haven't got something to strive for, you can always be a better person. You can always be a better person if you're always developing yourself as a person and making yourself better. Then, I think the better it is for everyone. If everyone did that, the world would be a better place.
100%. It's like impacting yourself and the people around you. We have to improve things at an individualistic level. We have to improve ourselves, which will then reflect to the people we surround ourselves with, instead of trying to make these wholesale changes to all of society, saying that all of society has to now accept this thing or accept that thing, or you know what I mean? It's too much to do that. For example, like, not to get too deep or whatever, but racism wasn't just changed in one night, right? It was changed at an individual, smaller level. And then those people collected together and said, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And that's how it then became accepted that racism is wrong, right? It wasn't just, it's like people woke up one day and like, yeah, actually, you know what? Now I hate having slaves.
Yeah.
Don't laugh at that. If you laugh at that, you're racist. No, no, but we'll end on that note. That's all we have time for today. Thank you, J-Riz, for coming and sharing your story. It was
an absolute pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're a legend, man. All good. All right, take care, everyone. See ya.
See ya.